Hello and welcome. Today, let's talk about yet another change proposed in the Union Budget 2023-24, which aims to help MSMEs get payments faster. That is, after this change, the buyers would be forced to make timely payments to MSMEs. Before we take a deep dive to know how exactly is this change going to help MSMEs get payments faster, let's first understand what's MSME. MSME is acronym for micro, small and medium enterprises. For the purpose of MSME, organizations can be classified into three different categories. 1. Manufacturers, 2. Traders, 3. Service providers. To be MSMEs, these organizations have to meet two criteria. One is related to the investment in plant and machinery or equipment, and the other is related to the turnover. If the investment in plant and machinery or equipment is up to 1 crore plus the turnover is up to 5 crore, then such organizations are micro enterprises. If the investment is more than 1 crore but it is up to 10 crore plus turnover is more than 5 crore but it is up to 50 crore, then such organizations are small enterprises. And if the investment in plant and machinery or equipment is more than 10 crore but it is up to 50 crore plus turnover is more than 50 crore but it is up to 250 crore, then such organizations are medium enterprises. This is how we get MSME. Now the change that we are discussing today is actually not related to medium enterprises. In other words, this change is going to be applicable only to micro and small enterprises. If you get yourself registered as an MSME, this is also known as Udyam registration, and you can get this registration online on the Udyam registration portal. Now this MSME registration comes with several benefits attached to it, like you can avail loan at a cheaper rate of interest, that is MSME loans. Then if you participate in tenders, then deposits like earnest money deposit, security deposit, etc. are usually waived off. If you get ISO certification, then certification fee would be reimbursed to you. Then you get protection against delayed payments from your buyers. And the change that we are talking about is actually related to this particular benefit. Before we understand what exactly is this change, let's see what do I mean by this protection. Let's say here is an MSME which has supplied goods or services to a person called the buyer. Now against this purchase, the buyer is required to make payment to the MSME supplier. For this, some time limits have been specified. If payment term is agreed in writing, which usually happens in business, then the buyer is required to make payment within 45 days. So this payment term cannot be more than 45 days. If it is not agreed in writing, then this 45-day limit is going to get reduced to 15-day limit. In other words, the buyers would be required to pay within 15 days. If buyers don't pay within these time limits, then buyers would be required to pay along with compound interest. And this is the protection available to MSMEs against delayed payments from buyers, and this protection is given under MSME Development Act. To add to this, some changes have been proposed in the Union Budget to the Income Tax Act. And once the finance bill is passed, this change is going to be effective from 1st April 2023. Now what exactly is this change? If buyers don't pay within these time limits, then buyers will not be able to avail deduction of such expenses. To have a better understanding of this, let's consider a simple scenario. Here is an MSME which has supplied goods worth 5 lakh to a person called the buyer. Let's say the payment term is agreed in writing, so the buyer is required to make payment within 45 days. Let us now see the effect of the change that is proposed in the budget. For financial year 2023-24, here is an abstract of profit and loss account of the buyer. Let's say the sales is 100 lakh, purchases and other expenses are 75 lakh, Let us assume this would include goods worth 5 lakh which is purchased from an MSME supplier. So net profit is the difference between these two, which is 25 lakh here. For the sake of simplicity, let's say the buyer is required to pay income tax at 30% flat rate. So 30% of 25 lakh would be 7.5 lakh. And this is how normally the income tax is computed. Let's assume that the buyer has not made payment within 45 days. Sales is going to remain the same, but purchases and expenses have now gone down by 5 lakh to 70 lakh. That is, goods worth 5 lakh that is purchased from MSME supplier is not going to be included in the purchases and expenses, because of which the net profit is going to go up by 5 lakh to 30 lakh, and 30% of 30 lakh would be 9 lakh. As the buyer has not made payment within the time limit, the income tax liability has gone up by 1.5 lakh, that is from 7.5 lakh to 9 lakh. Now let's assume the buyer makes payment in the subsequent financial year, that is financial year 2024-25. So the buyer would be able to avail this expense as deduction in the year in which the payment is actually made, that is financial year 2024-25, and the income tax liability is going to get reduced to this extent in the financial year 2024-25. So the crux here is, if the buyer doesn't pay within the time limit, then current tax liability of the buyer is going to get increased. So if buyers do not want to pay this additional income tax, then buyers would be forced to make timely payments to MSMEs, and this is how MSMEs would be able to get payments faster. This is all I have for you today. Hope the video was informative. Thank you for watching.